lean leadership. So over to you, Kimberly.
Oh,
The
thank
floor
you
is
so
all yours.
much. I just want you all to know that after Dr. Shoma said I worked all those years, I thought, oh no, I started working when I was 5. Not really, but anyway, I just don't want you to think I'm that old, right? Thank you so much for that warm welcome. I did put in the chat, isodc.org, which is an organization that I'm very involved with as the vice president. And as students, the membership is free. So that's kind of a nice thing if any of you are interested in checking that out. Okay, let me see if I can find my PowerPoint here somewhere.
There it is. I think you're starting to share.
Yeah. Awesome. So it is an honor to be here today. We have my co-author and I have a new book out, coming out on November 17th. It is called You Can Create Positive Change at Work. And this is something we've been working on for several years, which I'll kind of tell you the story about that. But I first of all just want to tell you how grateful I am to be here. Gratitude to me is something that is just very important and something that we should really stress on trying to be in our lives. And so I just want you to know how grateful I am that we have this opportunity to share today. As Dr. Shoma said, I had the pleasure of being in India in 2019, and we just had the best time ever. The conference was amazing. The food was amazing. The people were amazing. Everything was incredible. And I'm I look forward to returning again in the near future.
Kim, we can't see anything on the screen. It's still white.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, let me try it again.
It's sort of.
How about now?
No, now it's not shared at all.
I've never had that happen before. Okay, let's try again. Oh, it says whiteboard. So let's see, how do I don't want the slides as a virtual whiteboard.
Is it a PPT?
Yeah, it is.
You can just mail it to me, I'll put it up.
Okay.
If you can't find it, otherwise you can just share it as a PPT.
It keeps wanting me to go to, it's just on my, if I could just email it to you, I think that would probably be best.
Please do. I'll just check the mail.
That's what I get for updating my Zoom. Let's see.
You've emailed it, I'll open it and we put it on.
Okay. Just send it.
Okay. You send it to my that E126, right?
Let's see. Yes.
No, it hasn't come as yet. Probably taking a little time. Oh, no, not yet. I'm sorry. Yes, I've got it. Thank you.
Okay, awesome.
No, okay, this is the Delhi School of Business, this one, right?
Yes, yes.
Just open it.
It said advanced whiteboard, but I don't think you want me to draw out the presentation.
No, it's come as a PPT.
Okay, awesome.
Okay. The hell? Sorry, one second. Yes, now it's opening. I think it's opening. September 21. Come on. Yeah, got it. All right. Yes. Okay, let's see now if I can share it. Sorry, everybody. Just see. Okay, share screen. Here it is. Okay, got it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. So, I just went through the first couple, so we can just go through those if you'd like. But it is an honor to be here and to share with you on our upcoming book. You can go to the next one. Yep. And I'm so grateful to be here, and I think gratitude, it's one of the key parts of our book, which I will be getting into a little bit more. But I just want you to know how grateful I am to be here. And next one, please.
Yeah.
And just some pictures from when I was in India 2 years ago. It was just the loveliest conference ever. And I look forward to hopefully coming again. I'm not sure if Dr. Shoma has recovered yet, so but hopefully we'll be able to come again.
Okay.
And just another picture from the conference. So
all right, here we are.
All right. So this is, and if you could just hit return one more time. This is something that my partner and I wrote this book. It's been a few years coming, but it's really, and if you could hit return one more time, Shoma, this book really shows you how to bloom right where you're planted. So regardless of your circumstances, we want to help you get your boss to be on your team, right? To create a team that's going to get the job done and then some, and really show you how to be the best version of yourself at work and possibly in life. They're not, two diametrically opposed things. So why are we doing this? Because my partner, Mary, and I, we are so we care about you so much, and we want to empower you in positive business so that you can become the leader you were meant to become. And nowadays we need leaders at all levels of the organization, not just at the top. And we want you to be able to be your best, live your best life possible at work. So that is the reason we wrote this book. So next slide, please. So we have 4 fuses in this book. And the first fuse is forging a positive workplace. And if you could go to the next slide, please, Shoma. We have 3 different parts to it, and you'll probably have to hit return a couple times, unfortunately. Oh, there we go. The 3 parts of the fuse 1 are cultivating compassion at work, forgiveness in work and life, and unleashing the power of gratitude. Now, you don't normally hear about these items when you think about the workplace. You hear about them more, in regards to your personal life. But we, in our book, wanted to really encourage you to think about these items at work, and to think about how they can have a big impact on you at work. And they say by practicing gratitude for 21 days in a row, it changes the lens at which you look out into the world. I started a gratitude journal when it's probably been about 8 years ago now. I think I'm probably on my 6th or 7th journal, and it really has changed I try every day to write at least 3 things I was grateful for in the day. And it's really helped me become more positive in my orientation in life. So anyway, we delve into these quite in depth, but these 3 components are, they're the components of Fuse 1. If you could go to the next one, please. Oh, I think I played around with the, we might have to hit it a few times, Shoma, I'm sorry. I was having fun last night playing with the, having them zoom in and things like that. So the next fuse is the upside of change. And I love this quote here by Robert Redford, which of course you all can read, but why does change have to be a bad thing, right? Change can be scary. And it's really important to manage our reaction to change. Going from denial to resistance, to exploration, to commitment can be a really powerful tool. And it can create a tipping point, both for you and your team. If you could go to the next slide, please, Shoma. And again, those are the 2 things right there. So really learning how to manage your reaction to change is really key. And we give you lots of examples in how to manage your reaction to change and to find positive ways to deal with change. Why not focus on the good things and the strengths that you have in dealing with a change, and the importance of sharing our stories, right? We've all had to deal with change on so many levels in our lives, and sharing those stories so that they can help other people when they're going through change to realize that it might not be so bad in the end, right? So those are the things that we consider on the upside of change. If we could go to the next one, please. The next one is Fuse 3, a strengths-based approach. And a lot of times in the US, I'm not sure how it is in India, but sometimes we really focus on the deficits, right? Like, I use the example when a child comes home with their report card, right? The parents go right to the bad grades, right? And see what can you do to make them better. And not saying that you shouldn't focus on those at all, right? But how about focusing on your strengths and what you can strengthen instead of the weaknesses? I think can be a really good approach. So, and then if you could go to the next slide, please. So we really highlight how you can be a learning individual, how you can be a learning team and a learning organization by continually learning. And I think there's one more yet too. And this one is my favorite, is getting creative and learning how to problem solve. So a lot of times, I know for myself, when I don't try to get as creative as possible, right? I think, okay, what's the easiest fix, right? What's the low-hanging fruit? And not that we shouldn't consider those, but we should cast a wider net, right? And try to get creative in different ways and give people the ability to give input so that we can consider everybody's suggestions, not just the suggestions of a few. And having people speak out, right? Getting everyone's input in a way, some people aren't used to being able to speak out. They're not used to their voice being heard. So giving them a way to share and help problem solve in a way that they feel comfortable with is really important. And because we need everybody's voice today as the world is changing so quickly. And a couple examples we give in the book is when giving feedback, using the sandwich method, where you start out with a positive, then you share what could be improved upon, and then you end with a positive. So even though you're sharing something that could potentially be improved, it's feedback on improvement, you can still share in a way that the person walks away with the same amount of dignity that they had in the beginning. The other thing is, and we all know how important models are, right? Models are pictures that allow people to visualize and see things. In SWOT, a lot of us know, I'm going to put in the chat, the SWOT model, right? SWOT. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, right? It's a classic strategic model. Well, there's also another one out there called SOAR. And it's strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and results. So one thing I did one day is I was like, why do we have both of these different models? Why don't we create SWOTer? So I put those together and I created this model: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, aspirations, and results. So a lot of times I don't want to say afraid, but we're like, oh, this is the way it is, and why should I change it? And I just really want to encourage you in today's world, mix it up, get creative, and problem solve in a way that you have not before, because it will really ignite not only yourself as the learning individual, but your team and possibly your organization as well. Next slide, please. And this is the one I really want to focus on today. And it is called engaging in high quality connections. By engaging in high quality connections, we show you how to get excited to come to work, how to give yourself agency to get the job done, and create an environment of trust. One of my favorite quotes by Stephen Covey is, "Trust is the glue of life. It's the most essential ingredient in effective communication, and it's the foundation principle that holds all relationships." And so by having, and if you could hit it a few times, Shoma, that would be great. And I think one more time, by having respectful engagement at work, by task enabling, by giving people the ability to get the job done, right? To problem solve, to enable themselves to think outside the box, or maybe create a whole new box, right? Why do we just need to think outside the box? By creating an environment of trust. Trust is the glue of life. Are you dependable? Is your word your bond? Is it something that people can really rely on you for? And encouraging play at work. Play at work is not something we talk about very often, right? Play is kind of a word for the weekend, right? Or after. And I attended another webinar yesterday, and the speaker said play is almost, if not more important than the values, which I thought was a little profound for them to say that. But play really ignites your employees and allows them to have fun at work. And when you have fun at work, what are you? You're more creative, you're more productive, right? You're more efficient. And so how can you have play at work? Now, maybe that means having a team meeting outside, right? Sitting on the grass. Maybe it means having a potluck at lunch. I mean, there's a lot of things. Maybe it means having a jigsaw puzzle in the break room, right? Where people can go in and, play with the jigsaw puzzle and then just move on about their day. So there's a lot of things you can do to include play at work and still have people be super, super productive. So if you could go to the next one, Shoma. So I would love to, the other thing we have in this is in this book at the end, we have two toolboxes. And the first toolbox is for staff, for employees, frontline essential, employees. And then the second one is for the manager. And they're practical tips, and they can be used both. Like, a staff member can go into the manager's toolbox or whatever, but we did want to divvy them up to give people maybe a starting point from where they can go. And we're really excited. We're really excited about the toolboxes because we feel that they give you tools, right? They give you tools to be successful at work. And if you could go to the next one. And so what I'd like to do here is I'd like to take a minute. Is it okay if we do an exercise, Shoma?
Yes, please do. Please.
Okay, so this is an exercise from the toolbox, and it's a high quality connections exercise. And so I would like to, if we could, and we're just going to, I'm trying to think about how we're doing with time here. I think we're doing pretty good. Let's, if each of you could just think about three stories about yourself that make you who you are, okay? That make you your unique person. And what we're going to do is I'm going to put you into breakout rooms of three people in a breakout room. And what we're going to do is you're going to have 1 minute to share your story. Okay. So person one will have 1 minute to share their story. Person two will have 1 minute to share their first story. Person three will have 1 minute to share their first story. Okay. Normally I give 2 minutes for this, but because of time, I wanted to abbreviate it a little bit. And then we're going to do a second round, and each person will have a minute to share their story. And then we'll do a third. Do you think we have about 10 minutes or so, Shoma, for this?
Yeah, 10 minutes is fine.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Or it might be 12, but yeah. And so what I'd like you to do is think about 3 stories that make you who you are. And then I will go ahead and guide you. And I got this exercise from this book called Lift, Becoming a Positive Force in Any Situation. And it's really, well, I don't want to give it away. So I'm going to have you right now think of the 3 stories. Okay. And then we're going to put you into groups of 3. I will say, it's now time for story 1, person 1. It's now time for story 1, person 2. Okay, I will guide you through the groups, and it's just your job to come up with your 3 stories. Okay. Does anybody have any questions before we do this?
You can unmute and ask your question if you do. Otherwise, we will just do the exercise.
I do ask that you get a piece of paper handy and that you take notes while your partners are talking. Okay. The reason I ask you to do that is when you write notes, when you write things down, you remember them better, right? So, any questions?
Neeraj, can you make her the host instead of co-host? Then she can control the breakout rooms. Okay.
I'm the host now.
You're the
Yay! Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to, it says I need to put how many breakout rooms, how many?
There are about 80 people right
So
now.
80 divided by 3 is oh, I tell you, I could do the math if I wasn't presenting.
So why don't you make about 26 rooms? That should.
Okay. Yep. That sounds great. Now, if you have more than 3, you might have to talk a little faster. Okay. But hopefully we'll have not more than 3 in a room. Okay. And here we go.
Okay, all of you have got rooms now, so just join.
Yep. You have to click a button to go into your room. Yes. And I'm going to put this message in, but you have, please share story 1, person 1. You have 1 minute to share. Go. Got about 30 seconds left. Now we'll go to story 1, person 2. And you have 1 minute. Something just happened. Oh, there. Okay. And now we will go to story 1, person 3. And you have 1 minute to share your story. Unassigned. I'm going to put the 2 unassigns in room 1. So if you could accept the room that you have been designated, that would be great. You do have to click to accept the room. Okay, we are going to go to Story 2, person 1. You have 1 minute to share your story. Radhika, you need to accept to join room 1. Himani, you need to accept to join room 9.
Shoma ma'am, you are muted.
Got it. Somil, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Am I back with you? I don't know, but I can see
Ma'am,
it. Yes.
there are the other participants too.
Yep. I don't think we have come back. So she says, please share your story, but we are not in a breakout room. We are in the main
What?
meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know. It shows I don't have any that are unassigned.
But probably we just got out of the room. So,
So you can share your story right here.
okay.
Oh.
Let's see. Room 1 has Radhika, who has not joined. Okay. Join room 1, yes.
Excuse me, ma'am, it's not showing me room, my breakout room.
Okay, I'm going to give you.
Previously, I was with Shoma ma'am. Shoma ma'am, you are again muted.
So just go down to where it's saying breakout room. Can you see that?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and say join room 1.
Okay, ma'am.
And then you will be back in room 1.
Ma'am, it's room 4.
Now you're in room 4, okay? All right. Let's go and see. No, room 4 has other people. Oh, Somil has not gone to room 4. Okay, go back to room 4. Where am I? Let me see. Oh, I'm in room 1. Oh, okay, join.
Okay, we're now going to go to story
Third
3,
story. Okay.
person 1. Go.
Excuse me, ma'am, there was no one in my room.
Okay, let's
But
just we'll just
previously,
hang
there was Shoma ma'am, and now no one is there.
we'll just hang out for a minute, okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Oh,
But I shared one story with Shoma ma'am.
okay, good. Now we're going to go to story 3, person 2. About 30 seconds left. And then we're going to go to story 3, person 3. And then we're going to come back together. Okay. So those of you who are not assigned to a room right now, let's just hang out for a minute, and then we will all come back together. So here, we should all be coming back together now. Yay! We're all back together. So we did have a couple of technical difficulties. I'm sorry about that. I have to tell you, I never did this exercise virtually until COVID hit. And then I was like, well, we're going to do it virtually. And it has worked pretty well virtually. So the one thing I miss from doing it virtually is when I do this exercise in person. When we go through story 1, you know, it's nice and, you know, you hear everyone talking. And then when you go through story 2, it gets a little bit louder. And when you get to story 3, it gets even louder still because people are really sharing a lot. And I have to tell you, well, let me ask you, do you guys, those of you who are able to share stories, did you have anything in common with each other? Feel free to unmute and share.
No, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, I had common with one of my group mates.
Okay. All right. And what was that you had in common?
It was the love for trekking, both of us.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else? Did you have
Yes,
anything?
ma'am. Even in our group, yes, ma'am. Even in our group also, I had common. Like she was, I didn't know her name as well because she had mentioned it as Del. So I don't know her name perfectly. So she said that she is very much adaptive to the situation and she is not at all egoistic. So I found this very common with my own self that yes, even I can adjust to situations very well.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. How about one more? One more person.
In my group, all 3 of us. May I say?
All 3 of you had something in common?
Yeah.
And
in
what
my
was
group,
that?
all of us learned a lot from our experiences. Some of us were, one of us is a football player. So learned from his experience while playing football. They were losing. So I think what he meant was learning from losing and not giving into it. And the rest of us learned from experiences like customer care and how to manage people. And
Absolutely.
philosophies like Ubuntu, African philosophy.
You learn so much in playing as a team, right? In sports. I mean, there's such a correlation between sports and teamwork, right? I mean, that's what it's all about in sports. I really.
Can I share on behalf of my group?
My breakout
Sure,
room was
sure.
21.
We'll take, this will be our last one. Yes, please share.
Ma'am, I had Ekta and Keshav in my group. So Ekta had a big moment in her life when her sister got married. Keshav had a moment when he won a bronze medal in wrestling or judo championship. And I got emotional when I cracked a job when there were no roads open. So what we have in common that we often tend to get overwhelmed by emotions when
Oh,
something nice happens to us.
that's wonderful. And, I think that's just great. I mean, a lot of times people find that we have a lot more in common than we do different, right? We've all had experiences that have shaped our lives. And I have to tell you, I was walking in to teach a MBA class, and it was a cohort, right? So they had been together for 2 years, and this was their very last class. And I thought, I can't do this exercise. These people know everything about each other. They've been together for 2 years, right? And something inside of me said, do it. So we did this exercise, and they learned things about each other that they had not known after sitting side by side for 2 years. And it was just a huge aha to me, because a lot of times we kind of put our blinders up, right? And we go throughout our day. I am the worst. I have my checklist. This is what I have to get done today, and I'm going to get it done, right? Come heck or high water. And it was an important reminder that I need to stop and I need to forge these personal relationships, because these personal relationships that I have with people, they're the icing on the cake of life, right? They're the things that make life wonderful. When I know about how many kids someone has and how many grandbabies someone else might have, or something like that, right? How many pets another person has, right? So knowing this stuff really makes a special bond with each other. Now, let me ask those of you who got to share the stories, which I know not everyone did, do you feel differently towards each other now that you might know each other a little better?
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So I know this exercise didn't go through perfectly, but I think it went fairly well. And I want to encourage you. This is just one exercise from the toolboxes, and I want to encourage you to, when you do get the book, to look through the exercises. I have to tell you, I do this exercise the beginning of every class, and it's kind of my secret weapon, because it gets people sharing, right? And when you feel comfortable with people, when you feel comfortable knowing that the person sitting next to you is not that different, right? It brings people, it brings students much more comfort in the classroom to share and to be open. And so I've had students take this exercise and take it into their workplace. And they were like, I sat next to this person for 9 years. Our cubicles were side by side, and I learned things that I never knew, And so I want to encourage you to form those high quality connections with people around you, so that you can get more out of life, right? You can be more creative. You can have better team building, right? You can feel comfortable playing with them at work. So that was just a little exercise from the book that I was hoping to do to make it give you an example of what is in the book. Now, there's just a couple slides left, which we don't need to go to. Shoma, would it be possible to email these slides out? Email them out to the students? I would love to be able to share these slides with you if you would like. We do have a webinar, my co-author and I, are kind of kicking off a webinar for the book on November 17th. There is a link in right here. There is a link where you can join the kickoff if you'd like. You probably hear some of what I said today, maybe a little more, but if you're interested. And then I also would like to encourage you to follow me or subscribe to my page on YouTube. I have, and it's my name here, Kimberly Barker, and I have many talks webinars that I've done, and I have two playlists. This to me, this is the best part of the YouTube page. I have one playlist is how to live your best life, and the other one is how to live your best life at work. And those are all the videos I use for my classes. So I had to have a central repository because the older I get, sometimes I forget where my videos are. So I had to have a central repository where I could put all my videos, and they are there in the playlist. But then I also do a lot of webinars for the International Society for Organization Development and Change, and those are all on my YouTube page as well. So I'd encourage you to check those out. One of my favorite quotes from the book that I just wanted to finish up with today is by Verna Myers, and it is, "Diversity is being invited to the party, but inclusion is being asked to dance." And to me, it just really hit home on the importance of inclusion in our world today. I think a lot of companies do not really know how to effectively deal with diversity. It's great to have diversity. It's great to have, different genders, different races, different ideas at the table. But if you don't use that, if you don't harness that to make everybody feel a part of what is happening, you're not using it appropriately. So actively encouraging people to actively participate it's more important than ever today. And so and not just having them sit at the table, but encouraging them to act is where in my opinion, where we need to be. So every time I hear we need a diversity committee, I say we need a diversity and inclusion committee, right? Because the inclusion to me is the goal of where we need to be. So does anybody have any questions for me?
Yeah, please go ahead with questions. Anybody?
Ma'am, I have
yes, Madhuranti.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So yes, ma'am. The question is, I feel that every single individual has their own way of dealing with a problem. And problems are just like some leads to anger, some leads to fear. Might be anger is related to the past experience, and fear is related to the future experience. And most of the time we have these emotions just because we want to save ourselves. So if we have a positive attitude, mainly in any of the places, might be some individual is going some hard time, and we just want to explain the person in a bit positive way that how the person might deal a situation. So at that point of time, the person might show a very good behavior like, yes, okay, I understood it. But deep within, after moving out from the situation, the person might be like, she doesn't even know that what actually I'm going through. Had she been in my shoes, then she would have understood that what actually is going on. So some way or the other, we human beings have developed an attitude of having a negative impact even to the positive thoughts. So how can we change this sort of thing?
Oh, you raised some really good points. I think, first of all, it's important for people to share their stories, right? So understanding when you are going through a hard time, hearing stories of people that have positively weathered the storm, right? I think can be very valuable So encouraging people to share their stories and having a core group around you so that when you are going through a hard time, you have folks that you can go to and talk openly and freely and get advice and hear their stories, because I think that can really help you reframe in your mind from it being a negative to going into a positive. Now, not everything is rainbows, unicorns, and beautiful clouds, right? I mean, some things are tough and you have to deal with them and you have to work through them. But having that positive support structure around you, I think can make all the difference.
May I say something in this? I'm sorry,
Yes,
Professor. Actually,
absolutely.
what happens when my experience is that immediately the person who is getting this advice or whatever support from a person, okay, for their heart triumphs, later on they realize the importance of that support, maybe even 1 year later, 2 years later, even 10 years later, that how important it was, although we did not feel it or realize it, rather feel it, not realize it. Okay, through my experience, I feel the statement which was made was totally I mean, out of situation, could not be applied. But then I realized later on how important the statement was that. Okay. And that also changed the way we look at things. So if not today, tomorrow you will realize it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And, you know, I just was telling my students the other day, you know, you interview for a job and you're like, oh my gosh, I nailed that, right? Everything went perfect. And I felt like we really had a connection, and you never get a call back. And you're like, what in the world? I said, don't take it personally, right? There's so many other things going on in that situation. Some of it's political, right? Some of it is, you know, it could be anything. They already had somebody in mind, right? And they just threw out a net. So you just need to kind of trust the process and know that when the right opportunity comes along, it will be yours. But that's hard. And it's hard for me because sometimes I can be impatient and I want things to happen fast, right? But trusting that that the right things will happen in the right time is very important. And having that support structure, I can't stress it enough. Having those people, those high quality connections that help you understand the process. Someday when I'm in the home or in my children's home and they take care of me, right? I think I'll be able to look back at life and understand everything, right? But when you're right in the thick of it, sometimes it's a little bit harder.
I think reflection and introspection is one of the key things one should develop.
Absolutely. And that's why you need a journal. That's why you need a journal, because you need to write in your journal. I go back and I read things and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, things I've written. So I can't encourage you enough. My very first PhD class, an alum came and spoke to us on the importance of having a journal. And my first thought was, is this what I'm paying all this money for? Someone to tell me to get a journal? And then I stopped myself and I said, Kim, don't be an ESTJ. Don't judge, right? Don't judge right away. And I went out and I got a journal. And I'm telling you, getting the journal was probably, that suggestion was probably worth, we'll say, half the cost of my PhD. Oh, so if you don't have a journal, I would begin journaling. And, you know, I was like, what do I write in a journal? I don't have any idea what to write in a journal. So I said, well, I'll start with a gratitude journal. And I'll start writing 3 things that I'm grateful for every day. And now I've filled up probably 7 journals. And I've only lost one. And I think it's probably behind a dresser or something somewhere in my house. Someday when I move, I'll find it.
It's very difficult to write a journal. When you feel it and writing it, it's very difficult to write even one sentence.
Yes, yes.
And I think, of course, even to tell one story in 1 minute, it's so difficult.
It is. And I know we kind of cut that short a little bit, and 2 minutes is probably a much better time. But you know what? Practice makes perfect, right? So the more you write in a journal, the easier it will become. I mean, there are days when I get home and I go right for my journal and I open it and I start writing, and 5 years ago, I wouldn't have had any idea what to write, right? So it's just like anything else. The more you do it, the easier it becomes.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Awesome.
Any
Any
other
other?
questions?
Yeah.
Anybody?
Any other questions, comments?
Yes, may I?
Please go ahead.
Ma'am, you just told about journaling, gratitude journal and everything. So I also read about the law of attraction, the most famous book, The Secret, and everything. But ma'am, I just want to know from your perspective that sometimes you might have a crappy day or crappy 3-4 days. You are very low on energy. You're thinking negatively. Obviously, you are human, so you might end up like that. So how do you motivate yourself to be thankful still, because at that point of time you feel that okay, nothing is going to ever end up the way I want. So how do you cope up with that?
First of all, thank you so much for asking that question. And you mentioned one of my favorite movies of all time, The Secret. I love that movie, and I love the law of attraction because I really believe what you put out into the world is what you get back. Yes, there are so many times when I feel like, oh my gosh, right? I mean, at the beginning of this, when my PowerPoint wasn't working, right? I was like, oh my gosh, how could this be? I think your breath has so much to do with taking a deep breaths, right? And calming yourself can really have an impact. I'm a firm believer in, I call it 2 minutes of focus, right? I'll set my timer and I'll do deep breaths for 2 minutes. It can completely change my day, my attitude, everything. There's something so powerful about your breath. If you need a little bit more than 2 minutes, I'll do 10 minutes. They say meditating and properly breathing for 10 minutes a day can completely change your health. It can lower your blood pressure. It can, decrease the risk of diabetes, and on and on. I think there's a lot. Taking some time, slowing down, kind of reframing the day, if you will, has really helped me when, my day starts out rough. And then I can just carry on throughout the day. So I just encourage you, 2 minutes of focus can really help with that.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
It's also, I could talk all day about this topic because I love this topic so much. One of my favorite TED videos is Amy Cuddy's TED video. I'm going to put it in the chat. It's Amy Cuddy. It's one of the most famous TED videos. Have any of you seen it? Amy Cuddy's TED video? It's how your body language shapes who you are. And it really talks about when you're all hunched down in like a small little ball, how that has an impact on you, right? But when you are open, maybe a little, they call it the Wonder Woman pose when you put your hands on your hips. But when you're more open to life, it really changes. It helps shape who you are in your view of the world. So I'd encourage you to check out that TED video.
Okay, thank you for the tip. That's a nice one. I wanted you to share that story about the snowball game. Why don't you share with them?
So my co-author told that story, and she was at work one day, and her boss said, "Come on, let's get all the students, and let's go out into the courtyard, And, some of these students had never seen snow before, or they're not as familiar with it. And they had a snowball fight. And they laid down in the snow, and they made angels, where they moved their wings so it looked like they had angel wings. And it just really brought everyone to life, right? Everybody got excited, and probably a little cold as well, right? But doing things like that throughout your day at work can completely transform how people are working, right? How they're working. And I had a colleague who she would have her staff meeting outside, and they'd have a beach ball. She'd take a little plastic beach ball, and everybody would sit in a circle, and they'd kind of banter it back and forth. And then of course the person who had the beach ball had the floor, right? And they could speak. But it made the staff meeting so much more pleasurable, right? So really incorporating that play, it can really have a very powerful impact on your team. And it can be little things. It doesn't need to be really, huge things. So.
Any more questions, anybody? Manan, Mudra?
I have a question.
Yes, Charu, go ahead, please. Put on your video, beta.
Yes.
Chalo, batao, Charu. Ma'am has a class today, so she has to leave us.
What is your question, Charu?
Yes. Charu, you have to unmute. We can't hear you.
Yep, you're muted here.
You pressed something, so your voice has gone. Or you can write on the chat, Charu.
Yeah, you can also do that as well.
You can write quickly so she listens to you. You want to write? Oh, you lost her.
Oh, she's coming back in right now.
Okay. Yes, Charu, bataiye.
There you go.
Yeah. Charu, batao.
Ma'am, you talked about forgiveness in work and in life. And sometimes I feel that it gets a little difficult to let things go when you feel like you're being personally attacked, or like someone is trying to sabotage things that are important to you. So how do you deal with forgiving people when things are important to you and they probably don't understand?
Well, and thank you for that question. That's a really good question. And, sometimes that person doesn't need to realize that you're forgiving them, right? So sometimes you don't need to go to somebody who's hurt you. And so, sometimes you do, right? Sometimes you want to go to them and say, I forgive you. But if it's somebody who's not really open to that, sometimes setting a chair across from you and visualizing that person in the chair and telling them how you forgive them can be a really powerful way to let go of those bad feelings, right? And helping you get over it in some way. Another thing I want to say is, if you realize that this person is toxic, even if you have to deal with them every day, doing it in a way that you don't have to include them in your inner circle as much, right? So, maybe pushing them off to the side a little bit, right? So that you can still get your work done and be in a good place and not have to have that negative energy coming in. One other thing is maybe giving the person feedback. Some people do not realize that they're toxic. Some people do not realize that they are putting everybody in a bad place. So giving somebody that feedback and saying, really in a heartfelt way, maybe using the feedback sandwich, right? I know you're a great person. I know and sharing something good about them. But sometimes, I have seen where when you've acted out in a group setting, it's really had an impact on the team. And I'm not sure if anybody has ever come to you and shared this, but because I care about you, I want to share this with you. I think one thing I've learned is a lot of people carry around a lot of stuff, right? And some people might not be aware of how they are acting, right? So giving someone, but they have to care, right? They have to care about receiving that feedback and then doing something about it. And so those are three options. It's a tough situation, but forgiving people at work can really help you be able to move on and establish better relationships going into the future.
But here is a cultural difference between West and India.
Okay.
We do not like to give direct feedback. That's number one. And we are also not very receptive to anybody giving us feedback, Where is a huge difference between what we look at feedback or reception about feedback and what the West does,
That's very interesting.
Yes. That's my understanding. Maybe I'm
That's very interesting. So how do you receive feedback?
Surendra, I think times have changed a bit.
Yeah, please.
Because I have seen in my life, if I have tried to sit down with somebody and give feedback, yes, they're not always receptive, but nobody will really ignore, and they might, then sit and think about what you said.
Okay.
So you have to make that step. You have to take that step forward and try to do something about it. If that person doesn't accept, doesn't receive and see the positive, then it's fine. You move on, like she said. But at least you've made an attempt. And, from your side, you felt, I have done something positive.
Now, I'm going beyond that, Soma ma'am. I'm saying that we are not, as a person, we do not like to give direct feedback. That's the thing, right? Most of us, culturally, we don't give. And second thing, we also do not like to take feedback. It does not mean that we do not take feedback and we do not look into it. So these are two different things, stages of the feedback I'm talking about.
But
very
I think
interesting.
It again depends on the person. Like
yes, but generally I've seen people don't like.
I have seen, for me, it works like if somebody tells me that, I just wanted to share, I didn't like this about you. I will sit and think about it and decide, okay, maybe so I hadn't realized it and I probably need to make some changes.
No, we can chat about it later. It's a
early
morning for her. She has to go.
If I'm permitted, I'm Rajiv here. If I'm just say two words on this.
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So I think as far India is concerned, I think in my view, forget about our informal and unofficial interpersonal feedback in the family and otherwise, but majority of the institutions also the feedback system is not institutionalized. And at the same time, as has been highlighted by Surendra sir, and to a certain extent Shoma ma'am also, that okay, it could be selectively practiced with individuals, but broadly we may talk many things behind people and would love to give many feedbacks about X to Y or to Z, but we will not give the feedback to X, and the X would not like to accept the feedback many a times. So what does it mean is that in the society, in the culture, this feedback system, it actually has not matured. And as an institution, even the educational institution or many of the corporates or even the Indian companies, the feedback system would be very, very informal, but not very formal. And we would not be very straight in giving the this thing, and it would not be a very official word kind of a thing. Whereas in West, it would be documented, it would be some official in nature. It may go into the records of the employee, yeah, and based on that, the future course is decided, and probably you would like to measure the progress on how an individual is working on those parameters or those feedback. But I think we are a different culture, I would say, or the society that way. We are, without going into the merit or demerit, but this is the fact which exists.
Thank you so much for saying that, Rajiv. And you brought something to mind. Obviously, yes, there's formal feedback, right? And what you're saying is that has not really maybe formalized as much in some organizations in India. But you brought something to mind for me. Just because somebody's giving you feedback doesn't mean you always need to take it to heart, right? So when you're getting feedback, you need to make sure that it's from somebody that you really trust, right? And they know that you have your best interest at heart. So just because somebody's giving you feedback doesn't mean that, it's something you always want to accept, right? So I think that it's good, again, to have that core group of people that you can ask questions for and say, how can I improve? How can I get better? What suggestions do you have for me, right? Because those people are going to speak truth to you in a way that is in your best interest. I love this discussion, you guys. I could talk about this all day.
I know that you told me that Thursday is your class day and you have to really...
I know, I have to leave shortly. Maybe one more question before we go?
Yes, ma'am, please. May I? Just one last question.
Yeah.
Ma'am, is it possible that if someone is toxic to someone, for example, A is toxic to B, but the same person A is not toxic to some other person C? Can that happen? Because a toxic person is not very general, toxic to everyone.
Yeah, I think that's definitely possible. So, so the person who is feeling that the one person is toxic to them, again, really figuring out why, right? Taking that time and understanding. Maybe that person has a set of assumptions that is wrong or is misplaced. And so again, it's putting that investment in the relationship so that you can come together and move forward, right? Sometimes you put all that time and energy into it and you realize, you're like oil and water, right? And it's not going to mix very well. But really, let me give you an example. There's an exercise I talk about in the book, and it's called the competing values exercise. And there's 4 different colors. So one is more like the CEO type person. Another is more like an administrative type person. Another is kind of like a people person, and another is kind of like the innovator type person, right? And so there's kind of like these 4 different mindsets. And this probably isn't a surprise to you, I'm a very strong people person, right? But I had a boss who was a very strong administrative person. And, every suggestion I gave, how do we operationalize it? What do we do? And I had not done this exercise. Once I did this exercise, I realized that our ways of thinking were completely different. It wasn't personal. It's just, we were 2 very, very different people. So and unfortunately I realized this after the fact, right? But going forward, when I encounter somebody like that, I can put my administrative hat on, right? and it helps me communicate with that person better. So really drilling down and determining what is really going on here and trying to create that high quality connection can be very powerful.
Okay,
Thank you
ma'am.
so much, you guys.
Okay. Joy, would you like to give the vote of thanks, please? And then we will share the memento we have for ma'am. Go ahead.
Ma'am, it was such a nice session, and we are all very happy to have you here. And some of my classmates are asking me whether you would be coming to India offline to teach us more about this,
I would love to.
because we are having offline classes as of now. So we are looking forward to have more sessions from you in person.
All right.
And everyone would agree with me that it was such an enlightening session. So thank you, ma'am, for coming.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much
you,
for
Kim. I
asking.
just want to quickly share something, and I'm sorry we have to do it online, but can you see that?
Oh, yes, I can.
That's a memento. That's an appreciation for you. And I'm going to just mail it to you, because the real thing, we have to wait till one of us, either you come or I go, and I will hand it over to you. But this is something for you specially. Thank you so much for sparing your time and coming.
It's so beautiful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. And I'll just mail it to you. All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thanks again.
Thank you.
And I hope you have a great weekend coming up. But today I know you're very busy with your classes. Thanks for coming to us. Thank you, Kim. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. And can you please share the PowerPoint?
Yes, I will.
Awesome. All right.
Sure.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Have a good day.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you,
Thank you.
ma'am.
so much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.